What if the Bible you know is missing crucial pieces? What if hidden within the creation story, the lives of prophets and God's sacred laws are details that have been deliberately kept from you? There's an ancient text called the Book of Jubilees, still preserved in the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, that claims to reveal these missing pieces and offer profound insights into God's divine plan. Here's what's shocking: this book has been banned by most of Christianity. But why? Today we're uncovering the secrets of the mysterious Book of Jubilees, also called Little Genesis. Across its 50 chapters, we'll explore why it was excluded from mainstream Christian Bibles. This ancient text contains forgotten details about the Genesis story and presents a cosmic view of angels, heavenly time, and secret commandments given to humanity. But the book goes even further. It declares that the calendar the entire world follows is wrong, and that time itself is divinely structured by God. Almost no one follows this calendar today. So why did the early church reject this ancient text? What secrets does it hold that were deemed too dangerous for mainstream Christianity? The Book of Jubilees retells the familiar creation story from Genesis, but with far greater detail than any Bible you've read. According to Jubilees, when God created the world, He didn't just bring life into existence, He established the very structure of time itself and aligned it with divine order. This introduces the concept of sacred time. Unlike our modern calendar, the Book of Jubilees presents a precise solar calendar overseen by celestial angels who govern the cosmic cycles of the universe. This isn't simply about counting days, it's about living in perfect harmony with God's will. But hold on, the revelations don't stop there. What if I told you that Abraham observed the Sabbath centuries before Moses, that Jacob received heavenly laws directly, and that Israel's slavery in Egypt was actually part of a grand cosmic design? According to Jubilees, humanity should follow this divine calendar of exactly 364 days. The 4 seasons are divided into precisely 91 days each. This structure ensures that sacred days like the Sabbath and holy festivals always fall on their proper dates. It's a perfect system, but one the world has forgotten. While Genesis begins with Earth's creation, Jubilees reveals an even grander picture. Before Earth was formed, angels were created on the very first day. These angels play essential roles in governing the universe, including regulating time and seasons. If this sounds strange to you, prepare yourself. What you're about to discover in the Book of Jubilees isn't just history, it's a secret code that has been hidden for generations. Jubilees reveals that specific angels are appointed by God for particular tasks. Some oversee natural phenomena like the movement of heavenly bodies, while others serve as messengers and guardians of God's laws. Jubilees 2:9 states, God commanded the sun to maintain its course according to the divisions of the seasons. These angels don't merely watch over humanity, they control the very fabric of time. When humans fall out of sync with God's time, chaos follows. So why was such an important book banned? Why did church fathers choose to reject this ancient text rather than embrace it? And most crucially, what revolutionary truths exist in the Book of Jubilees that aren't found in our Bibles? The answers to these questions contain truths that could transform your Christian faith forever. This isn't just a history book, it's a guide for bringing a world disconnected from God's time back into divine harmony. It's a warning that everything is predetermined, that every event is recorded on celestial tablets, and that our purpose is to understand our place in this cosmic plan. But before we explore these revolutionary discoveries, we need to understand the true identity of the Book of Jubilees and how it became a text the early church declared dangerous. The hidden history behind this book explains why it remains controversial today. Before we begin, please subscribe to our channel to support us in creating these videos. Like this video for motivation and encouragement. Let's take this journey together. If you're ready, let's dive in. In the 2nd century BC, a Hebrew text written in Jerusalem contained secrets that could forever divide the Christian world. This revolutionary work is known today as the Book of Jubilees, a 50-chapter retelling of Genesis through Exodus. Here's what's fascinating. This book was never officially declared forbidden. Early Christian writers frequently quoted from it. You'll find references in the works of church fathers like Epiphanius, Augustine, and Jerome. So why isn't it in most Christian Bibles today? The truth is, the Book of Jubilees didn't face an outright ban. It experienced a gradual fade into obscurity. In the 4th century, when the 27-book New Testament canon was established through Athanasius' Festal Letter of 367 and subsequent councils, Jubilees was categorized as useful but not divinely inspired. What if I told you this book is ignored because the information it contains is incredibly powerful? The Book of Jubilees didn't just expand on Genesis, it made bold claims about time, law, and salvation that directly challenged mainstream Christian theology. The biggest challenge: its calendar system. According to Jubilees, when God created the universe, he established a perfect time system based on a 364-day solar calendar. This system had exactly 52 weeks and 4 seasons, with each season lasting 13 weeks or 91 days. In this calendar, the Sabbath and all holy days fell on the same dates every year. No shifts, no confusion. Mainstream Judaism, however, had adopted a lunar calendar, and this was a major departure from Jubilees. Chapter 6 verse 37 of Jubilees warns, "There will be those who observe by the moon, distorting the seasons and making the day of testimony an abomination." This wasn't merely about calendars. The Book of Jubilees claimed that miscalculating sacred time would lead to spiritual chaos. The early Christian church didn't want to face such sharp criticism of timekeeping, especially when different calculation methods were already causing disputes over critical dates like Easter. But the real issue was Jubilees' radical approach to the law. Mainstream Christianity taught that Mosaic laws had ended with Jesus, or at least were no longer binding on Christians. Paul states in Galatians chapter 3, "The law was our guardian until Christ came." The Book of Jubilees told a completely different story. According to Jubilees, God's laws weren't given only in Moses' time. They existed from the very beginning of creation, and patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob already knew and practiced them. This claim shook the foundations of early Christian theology. Chapter 15 of Jubilees states, "Abraham kept the Sabbath, practiced circumcision, and observed all the laws written on the heavenly tablets." This directly contradicted Paul's entire argument in Galatians, where he made clear that the law began with Moses and ended with Jesus. Here's what was truly striking. Jubilees claimed these laws applied not just to Israel, but to all humanity. Even the angels, it said, observed these laws. Chapter 15 declares, "This law applies to all generations forever, and there is no deviation from the 8th day, for it is an eternal ordinance written on the heavenly tablets." This was unacceptable for Christianity, which was spreading throughout the Roman Empire and welcoming Gentile converts. If all laws were still valid, and even angels followed them, why weren't Christians practicing circumcision, dietary laws, and other Mosaic commandments? These weren't just academic debates, this was a theological crisis that would shape Christianity's future. But there was one place where the Book of Jubilees wasn't banned, it was actually treasured as sacred text: Ethiopia. In the 4th century, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church embraced Christianity and established a broad canon of 81 books. In this canon, the Book of Jubilees held a central place. For Ethiopians, Jubilees wasn't just historical text, it was part of their spiritual identity. Ethiopian Christians saw themselves as descendants of Abraham and keepers of God's laws. The solar calendar in Jubilees closely matched the Ethiopian calendar system. The Ethiopian tradition of preserving Jubilees was so strong that Western scholars couldn't access the complete text until the 20th century. In 1844, German scholar August Dillmann introduced it to Europe using manuscripts from Ethiopia. For the Western world, this was like discovering lost treasure. Think about this. Why was a book preserved in one country for over 1,000 years? Is this coincidence or part of a divine plan? In Ethiopia, the Book of Jubilees wasn't just read, it was lived. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church's calendar, holidays and fasting periods were all based on the system this book prescribed. For them, this text was a guide to God's will regarding time itself. Archaeological discoveries in the 20th century made things even more intriguing. In the Qumran caves, Hebrew and Aramaic manuscripts of Jubilees were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. This showed the book was widespread among Jewish communities during Jesus' time. Some scholars suggest the Qumran community considered Jubilees as sacred as the Torah itself. This community had separated from mainstream Judaism and developed its own unique calendar and legal system, exactly as Jubilees suggested. These discoveries raise a crucial question. Did early Christianity's rejection of Jubilees change the course of history? This question brings us to today. Is the message of the Book of Jubilees still relevant for us in the 21st century? Why did mainstream Christianity exclude this book, and how does that decision affect our faith today? Modern biblical scholarship classifies Jubilees as pseudepigraphic, meaning it claims false authorship. The book presents itself as revealed to Moses when we know it was written much later, but does this invalidate the spiritual insights it contains? The Ethiopian Orthodox Church gives a definitive answer: no. For them, the Book of Jubilees is key to understanding God's will regarding time. According to their calendar, the world is currently in the year 2016, in the midst of God's ordained spiritual cycles. This difference isn't just academic, it's about how we understand time itself. For Western Christians, time is linear, the past is finished, the future is uncertain, and the present is fleeting. But Jubilees offers a cyclical understanding of time. Every 49 years brings a Jubilee year, and the world experiences renewal. This system suggests God's time differs from human time, with everything happening in predetermined cycles. The Jubilee law in Leviticus 25 states, "The 50th year shall be a Jubilee for you." The Book of Jubilees sees this not merely as agricultural regulation, but as part of cosmic order. But why was this different understanding of time considered dangerous? Because if time is governed by God's predetermined cycles, what role does human free will play? If everything is written on heavenly tablets, how do repentance and salvation make sense? Mainstream Christianity recognized these problems and saw that Jubilees' deterministic approach contradicted free will. Augustine's theology of free will, developed in City of God, was incompatible with Jubilees' apparent fatalism. But perhaps it's just a matter of perspective. Maybe the Book of Jubilees shows us the balance between free will and divine providence from a different angle. Many Christians today are showing renewed interest in the lost books of the Bible. In texts like the Book of Enoch, the Gospel of Thomas, and the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, they seek answers to questions mainstream Christianity hasn't addressed. The Book of Jubilees is part of this search, but there's an important caveat. When reading these books, we shouldn't consider them equal to the canonical Bible, but rather as historical and spiritual sources. The Book of Jubilees provides a valuable window into early Jewish and Christian thought, but the Bible remains the primary source for faith. This is actually the Ethiopian Orthodox Church's approach. They consider Jubilees sacred, but not superior to the Bible. This book serves as a guide to better understanding Scripture. There are many stories mentioned in the Bible but not fully detailed. Enoch's ascension, Noah's life before the flood. We've made videos about some of these topics. In the future, we'll dive deeper and explore Thomas the Doubter, Abraham breaking idols, and more. You can see what's coming up on our channel. We've created special playlists for various topics. Check them out. Now let's turn to the Book of Jubilees itself. The Book of Jubilees attempts to fill these biblical gaps. But the real question is, do these details bring us closer to God or further from Him? We can only answer this by examining Jubilees, a revolutionary interpretation of the Genesis story. The secrets hidden in this book's creation narrative contain important clues not only about the past, but also about the future. Genesis 1:1 tells us, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." For most of us, this simple sentence marks the start of the creation story. But the Book of Jubilees reveals that behind these words lies a far grander drama. This drama involves not just the creation of our physical world, but the entire spiritual realm as well. According to Jubilees, on the very first day of creation, God didn't just create heaven and earth. He also created the angels. On the first day of creation, God created the heavens and the earth, and the waters and the angels, Jubilees declares. This crucial detail is missing from Genesis, yet it's absolutely central to understanding Jubilees. Why does this matter so much? Because these angels aren't simply God's messengers. They're appointed as guardians of universal order itself. They control time, the seasons, and the movement of celestial bodies. Creation, therefore, isn't just a physical event. It's the establishment of a cosmic organizational system. When you hear this information, don't you wonder, why isn't this in the Bible? This question strikes at the very heart of why the Book of Jubilees remains so controversial. Jubilees divides these angels into distinct categories. First are the angels of peace. They stand continuously around God's throne, worshipping Him without end. Second are the angels of service. These manage the workings of nature itself. The most crucial among these ministering angels are those responsible for time and the calendar. Jubilees 2:9 states, "He appointed angels to direct the movements of the sun, moon and stars, ensuring the order of times and seasons would be preserved." Think about this for a moment. If angels control time itself, are our current calendar systems truly in harmony with the order they established? Jubilees gives a definitive answer to this question. Absolutely not. In Genesis, God rested on the seventh day and made it holy. But Jubilees gives this event profound, deeper meaning. Not only did God rest, but the angels were also commanded to keep this day sacred. Jubilees 2:17-18 tells us, "God sanctified the seventh day and blessed it as an eternal sign of holiness for all his works. On this day he rested and blessed it for all time." The remarkable thing is that this commandment applied not just to humans, but to angels as well. Even in the heavenly realm, the Sabbath is observed. This makes the Sabbath not merely a religious practice within Jewish tradition, but a universal cosmic order. Did you ever see the Sabbath as just a day of rest, or as part of universal cosmic order? How might this shift in perspective transform your daily life? But perhaps the most revolutionary claim in Jubilees' creation narrative is this: Adam was taught the law immediately after his creation. In Genesis, God only tells Adam not to eat from one specific tree, but Jubilees describes a far more extensive educational process. Jubilees 3:1-2 reads, "In the second week of the sixth day, at God's word we brought to Adam all the animals, all the cattle, all the birds, and everything that moves upon the ground." This is presented not as simple animal naming, but as education about cosmic order itself. The angels taught Adam not only the names of creatures, but God's laws as well. The rules of sacrifice, laws of cleanliness, regulations of marriage, all of these were taught to Adam while he remained in Eden. This claim shakes the very foundations of Christian theology. If these laws were taught to Adam, then they're not unique to Moses, but universal laws applying to all humanity. So what were these laws, and why were they so important? According to the Book of Jubilees, after completing creation, God gave time itself a sacred structure. This structure is incompatible with any calendar system we follow today. According to Jubilees, God's sacred year consists of exactly 364 days. This system divides into 52 perfect weeks, with each season lasting precisely 13 weeks or 91 days. What does this mean? Every year, Sabbaths fall on identical dates, feasts never shift, and holy days are always celebrated consistently. Jubilees 6:23-24 states, "God appointed 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. He designed each to last exactly 91 days, so the times would never fall out of order." When you compare this system with today's Gregorian calendar, the differences are startling. Our calendar is a complex system based on lunar cycles. Some months have 30 days, others 31. February has 28 or 29 days. Leap years, calculations, constantly changing adjustments. Jubilees claims this represents a major deviation. In 636-37, it warns those who calculate according to the moon will distort the seasons and celebrate holy days at incorrect times. Stop for a moment and consider this. What you've just heard might seem overwhelming, but consider this possibility. What if we've been following the wrong calendar for centuries? What if the true holy times have been hidden from us? And if they have been hidden, who concealed them from us? This isn't merely theoretical discussion. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church still uses the Jubilees calendar today. According to the Ethiopian calendar, the year consists of 13 months, 12 months of 30 days each, plus a final month of 5 or 6 days. The total is 365 or 366 days, but the calculation system is completely different. According to Ethiopians, we're currently living in 2018, not 2025. This is because they calculate Jesus' birth date differently and follow the cosmic cycles predicted by Jubilees. Why is this calendar issue so crucial? According to Jubilees, following the wrong calendar doesn't just create date confusion, it leads to spiritual disorder. This is because God governs time through sacred cycles, and those not aligned with these cycles exist outside divine will. Jubilees 2:18 declares, "The heavenly angels also follow this calendar. They keep the Sabbath on the same days and celebrate feasts at the same times. Time operates according to God's established order." This claim leads to a radical conclusion. If angels follow a specific calendar, and our calendar isn't synchronized with theirs, then our worship, our special days, our holidays, essentially all our significant days, are out of sync with the heavenly realm. Consider this. When you attend church on Sunday, are the angels keeping Sabbath at that same moment or on a different day entirely? If Jubilees is correct, our holy days don't coincide with their holy days. What should we do about this? Jubilees offers a clear solution: return to the solar calendar. The sun's course is set by God and never deviates. People should follow the sun's cycle, not the moon's erratic movements, the book declares. When you hear this call, do you ask yourself, is this even possible? What if what we're about to reveal will be even more surprising? Because Jubilees doesn't simply propose a calendar change. The book suggests this calendar transformation will bring complete lifestyle transformation. Each day of the 364-day year has a predetermined purpose. Each week is dedicated to specific spiritual tasks. Each season calls for different forms of worship. This system envisions not only individual transformation, but societal transformation as well. According to Jubilees, in the future, all humanity will return to this sacred calendar. This return will occur with the establishment of the Messiah's kingdom. Jubilees 1:29 prophesies, in those days all people will follow the solar calendar. Times will be calculated correctly, feasts will be celebrated on their holy days, and the world will be harmonized with God's time. But before we can reach this future vision, we need to understand what Jubilees says about the laws taught to Adam. These laws are presented as universal rules for all time, not just temporary regulations. And these laws directly contradict mainstream Christianity's understanding of salvation. Here we encounter the most striking claim of the Book of Jubilees. God didn't simply tell Adam, "Don't eat from that tree." He taught him a comprehensive legal system. This system was identical to the laws the angels had in heaven. Jubilees 3:31 reads, "We taught him all that he should do on earth, to till the ground, plant fruit, sow seed, reap harvest, and we taught him all the laws." But which laws were these? Jubilees explains in detail: Sabbath law, rules of cleanliness, sacrificial order, marriage regulations, dietary laws. All the laws given to Moses on Mount Sinai were actually first taught to Adam in Eden. This claim fundamentally undermines Christian theology. It directly contradicts Paul's statement in Romans 5:20 that the law intervened to multiply transgression. If laws were given with creation, they're an essential part of creation, not temporary regulations introduced after sin. Do you understand why this difference is crucial? Because if Jubilees is correct, then the law didn't end with Jesus. It has simply been forgotten and needs to be remembered again. According to Jubilees, angels perfectly fulfill these laws in the heavenly realm. At 2:18, the angels of peace and the angels of holiness, these two great classes, have kept the Sabbath in God's presence since the first day of creation. So Sabbath isn't just a Jewish practice, it's part of cosmic order itself. Angels also cease work on Friday evening and bless Saturday. They also celebrate holidays at the same times and observe cleanliness rules. This raises a question: do angels also offer sacrifices? Jubilees gives a surprising answer: yes, in their own way. At 2:21, angels also make offerings of praise to God. This is their sacrifice. On every Sabbath day, every festival, at every holy time. This means offering sacrifices isn't just a physical act, but a spiritual principle of harmony. But Jubilees' most controversial claim isn't even this. The book states these laws remained in force even after Adam's fall. When Adam and Eve were expelled from Eden, they took the laws with them. Jubilees 3:31, when Adam left Eden, he didn't forget the laws given to him. These laws were written on his heart and were to be passed to his descendants. This is an extremely radical claim. If the laws were written on Adam's heart and passed to his descendants, then all humanity is obligated to obey these laws. This is a universal requirement, not just a Jewish one. Jubilees uses Enoch as an example to support this claim. Why did Enoch walk with God and get taken to heaven? Because he perfectly fulfilled the laws inherited from Adam. In 4:17-18, Enoch observed all the laws during the 365 years he lived on earth. He kept the Sabbath, celebrated feasts, offered sacrifices, and kept God's commandments perfectly. Do you think the connection between 365 years of life and the 364-day sacred calendar is coincidental, or is it all part of a predetermined cosmic order? Noah was the same way. According to Jubilees, Noah wasn't just a righteous man, but someone who knew and practiced the law. Why was humanity destroyed in the pre-flood period? Because they had forgotten Adam's laws and deviated from God's order. While we're here, you can watch our video about Noah's flood by clicking the cards on your screen. You can also explore the playlist we created specifically about Noah. Check out our other playlists covering biblical events, characters and eras, and browse our channel for more content. But don't worry, our video isn't over yet. Let's continue. Jubilees 5:2 states, "Everything on earth has corrupted its way, man and beast and bird and everything that creeps on the ground. They have all corrupted their way and their order, and have begun to devour one another." This represents not only moral corruption, but corruption of cosmic order itself. The laws were given not only for human beings, but for all creation. Even animals had rules to follow, and when these rules were broken, the entire system collapsed. Why were there pairs of animals of every kind on Noah's Ark? According to Jubilees, it wasn't only for species continuation, but for cosmic order restoration. Each type of creature had its place in natural order, and these places were determined by law. What did God say in his covenant with Noah after the flood? He didn't just promise, "I will never send another flood." He also reminded Noah of the law. 6:1-2, God taught Noah all the laws again, which animals he could eat, on which days he could offer sacrifices, how to maintain cleanliness. These laws had never changed, they had only been forgotten. Here Jubilees makes a crucial distinction. Laws are never newly invented, they are only remembered. Even the laws given to Moses at Sinai weren't new, they were the formal articulation of laws that had existed since Adam. This perspective fundamentally transforms Christian theology. If laws were given at creation, how can we claim they ended with Jesus? If angels still keep them, why shouldn't we? This is where the biggest bombshell of the Book of Jubilees explodes. The book claims these laws aren't just individual commandments, they are cosmic laws written on heavenly tablets. What are heavenly tablets? They are sacred records where God wrote the universe's plan and organized all time. Jubilees 1:29. All these things are written on the heavenly tablets. Everything from the beginning of time to the end of time is recorded on these tablets. These tablets contain not only future prophecies, but also the laws every creature must obey. This concept of heavenly tablets repeats constantly throughout Jubilees. The laws given to Adam are written on heavenly tablets. The commands Noah received are written on heavenly tablets. The covenant shown to Abraham is written on heavenly tablets. Everything is predetermined and recorded. What role does free will play in this scenario? According to Jubilees, people can choose to obey or refuse these laws, but the consequences are also written on the heavenly tablets. Every choice is predetermined. Does this thought disturb you, or does the idea that everything is planned in advance give you peace of mind? Jubilees' understanding of time comes into play here. According to the book, time isn't a straight line but a cyclical system. Every 49 years a Jubilee period completes and the world experiences renewal. These cycles are written on the heavenly tablets and never change. In 54 these years will be called Jubilee years. The land will rest, slaves will be freed, debts will be cancelled. This is how time has been determined by God. Why is this cyclical understanding of time important? Because if time is cyclical, then history repeats itself. Adam's fall, Noah's flood, Abraham's covenant, these aren't one-time events, but patterns that repeat in different cycles. According to Jubilees, our current time is part of one of these cycles. At the end of this cycle, just like in past cycles, there will be renewal. During this renewal, forgotten laws will be remembered and broken order will be restored. But this cyclical system hints not only at the future, but also at the past. If the laws given to Adam are written on heavenly tablets, and if these laws repeat cyclically, then how did the prophets learn these laws? This is where Jubilees makes its most striking claim. Prophets like Abraham, Isaac and Jacob knew and practiced these laws long before Moses. They received this information directly from the angels. 21:10, we taught Abraham what was written on the heavenly tablets, the Sabbath law, feast days, and sacrificial rules. This means Abraham knew the Mosaic laws 400 years before Moses. Does this claim make sense to you, or is it simply the imagination of Jubilees' author? But Jubilees doesn't stop there. The book declares these laws will apply not only in past and present, but also in the future. When the end times come, all humanity will return to these laws and be harmonized with heavenly order. At 23:26, in the last days people will turn from their ways and will again learn the laws written on the heavenly tablets. The earth will be harmonized with God's time. This future vision isn't only a spiritual proposal, but one with practical implications. If in the future everyone will use the solar calendar, keep the Sabbath, and observe sacrificial laws, then those who have already converted to this system will have an advantage. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church takes exactly this approach. For them, Jubilees isn't just historical text, but a guide for the future. That's why they've been using different calendars and celebrating different holidays for years. Jubilees' radical view of time doesn't stop at the calendar. The book states that entire lifestyles must be harmonized with celestial order. The food we eat, the clothes we wear, the relationships we have, everything must conform to the rules written on heavenly tablets. Is this kind of life possible? According to Jubilees, it's not only possible but inevitable. The cyclical time system will eventually bring everyone to this point. The question is, will this transformation be voluntary or forced? But to understand how this transformation will occur, we must first examine the lives of the prophets. According to Jubilees, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob weren't only God's chosen ones, but the first people to live heavenly laws on earth. Their stories provide detailed guidance on how to apply these laws. Abraham's story of breaking idols, Jacob's ladder dream, Joseph's dream interpretations, all of these contain hidden laws and cosmic order clues. In our upcoming videos, we will reveal the secrets of the heavenly tablets behind these stories one by one. Now let's listen to what Jubilees tells us about the prophets. What we learn here may change the way you read the Bible forever. In Genesis 12:1, God speaks to Abraham, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you." Most of us see this call as the beginning of Abraham's faith journey. But the Book of Jubilees tells a completely different story. When Abraham received this divine call, he already knew and followed God's laws. But how is this possible? How could Abraham have learned these laws 400 years before Moses received them on Mount Sinai? Jubilees gives us a surprising answer. These laws were never newly created. They had existed since the beginning of creation and were taught by angels to the chosen ones. In Jubilees 12:22-23 we read, "In his 12th year, Abraham sat down and sought God, asking him to show him the right path. And God sent his angels to him, so they could teach him all the law." This angelic encounter was no ordinary revelation. According to Jubilees, the angels gave Abraham a complete education that lasted 7 full years. During this time, Abraham learned all the secrets of the heavenly order. Hold on a second. 7 years of angel training. Why isn't this detail in the Bible? This very question shows us again why Jubilees is so controversial. So what exactly did these angels teach Abraham? Jubilees explains in fascinating detail. First, they taught him the laws of time. Abraham learned the sacred calendar of 364 days, the 52-week system, and that each season should last exactly 91 days. Then he learned the law of the Sabbath, not just about resting, but about the cosmic significance of this holy day. Jubilees 12:27 tells us, "They explained the Sabbath law to him. This day has been sacred from the beginning of creation, and the angels also rest on this day in God's presence." But here's the remarkable part. Abraham didn't just learn these laws, he started practicing them immediately. According to Jubilees, Abraham was keeping the Sabbath, offering sacrifices, and even fasting on Yom Kippur centuries before Moses was even born. Chapter 13:8 states, "Abraham began keeping the Sabbath in his 14th year and observing all the commandments, exactly as written in the heavenly tablets." This claim fundamentally challenges Christian theology. If Abraham knew and practiced these laws before Moses, then they are universal principles, not rules specific to Israel. And if they are universal principles, why aren't they followed today? The most crucial part of Abraham's angelic training involved the laws of sacrifice. In Genesis, we see Abraham offering sacrifices, but we never learn how he knew what to do. Jubilees fills this gap perfectly. The angels taught him in precise detail which animals to sacrifice, on which days to offer them, and exactly how to present them. In 14:10-11, we read, "The angels told him, on the first day of every month, offer a ram, on the 15th day a goat, and on the 29th day a lamb." This order is written in the heavenly tablets. These details aren't presented as Abraham's personal worship practices, but as the blueprint for Israel's future sacrificial system. So the worship system given to Moses at Sinai wasn't a new invention, it was a revival of ancient traditions dating back to Abraham. Does this change of perspective affect you? Are you ready to see Abraham not only as a father of faith, but also as a teacher of divine law? But perhaps the most striking part of Abraham's angelic education concerned the laws of purity. Genesis remains silent about what foods Abraham ate or avoided. However, Jubilees tells us that Abraham refused to eat pork, drink blood, or consume the flesh of dead animals. Chapter 15, 1-2 explains, Abraham learned all the purity laws, which animals are clean, on which days they must be washed, which foods are forbidden. These are the same laws that the angels themselves obey. Here we find a crucial connection. Angels also follow purity laws. This means these laws aren't just health guidelines, they're part of the cosmic order. The distinction between clean and unclean is spiritual, not merely physical. Abraham's life changed dramatically after learning these laws. According to Jubilees, this is where the tension between Abraham and his idol-worshipping father Terah truly began. Abraham could no longer live his old way of life. In 12:13 we read, "After Abraham learned the heavenly laws, he destroyed the idols in his father's house. He now knew the one true God and observed his laws." This idol breaking isn't recorded in Genesis, but it's a well-known story in Jewish and Islamic tradition. Jubilees presents it as the natural result of Abraham's angelic training. Once he knew the law, idolatry became impossible. But where did these laws originate? Were the rules taught to Abraham invented by the angels themselves, or did they come from a higher authority? Jubilees gives us a definitive answer. All the laws were written on heavenly tablets. What are these heavenly tablets? Let me explain briefly. According to Jubilees, they are sacred records of all times and laws that God prepared before creating the universe. Everything from past to future is written on these tablets. When each person will be born, when each event will occur, when each law will be given. Jubilees 32:21-22 states, "In the heavenly tablets, all these things are written from the beginning of creation to its end. Nothing happens unless it is written on these tablets." These tablets contain not only prophecies of the future, but also the rules governing the entire universe. The laws that angels obey, the rules taught to Abraham, even the laws of physics that govern the natural world, all are recorded on these tablets. According to Jubilees, the heavenly tablets consist of three main sections. The first section contains the laws of time, which day is the Sabbath, when to celebrate festivals, how to calculate lunar and solar cycles. The second section records moral laws, what constitutes sin and what constitutes virtue, which behaviors are rewarded and which are punished. The third section records historical events, which nation will rise and when, which king will fall and when. Chapter 1:29 tells us, in the first part of the tablets the times are written, in the second part the laws, and in the third part the destinies of nations. Nothing in this system happens by chance. Abraham leaving Ur, Abraham going down to Egypt, Abraham being tested to sacrifice Isaac. All of this was planned in advance on the heavenly tablets. Even what Abraham would do at each age is recorded. But there's a critical question here. If everything is predetermined, is Abraham's faith genuine or just a programmed response? Jubilees approaches this paradox thoughtfully. What's written on the tablets is the general framework of events, not individual reactions. Chapter 17:16 explains, "It was written that Abraham would be tested, but it was not written how he would respond to the test, because God examines the human heart, not the plan on the tablets." This approach tries to balance free will with destiny. Events are predetermined, but reactions are free. People cannot choose what they will face, but they can choose how they will face it. The system of heavenly tablets applies not only to individuals, but also to entire nations. Israel's slavery in Egypt, 400 years of suffering, then deliverance, all of this was written on the tablets. But the purpose of these writings isn't evil, it's education. Chapter 1:13 states, "The afflictions of Israel in Egypt were written, not to destroy them, but to purify them. For gold is refined by fire, and God's people are refined through hardship." Does this explanation satisfy you? Or are you still asking the question, is this fair? Jubilees' doctrine of heavenly tablets covers not only the past, but also the future. According to the book, The Coming of Jesus, His Crucifixion, His Resurrection, these too are written on the tablets. Even which nations will accept the gospel and which will reject it is predetermined. Chapter 23:31 prophecies, "In the last days, everything written on the heavenly tablets will be fulfilled. Some among the nations will believe, and some will reject it, but in the end, the whole earth will know God's law." This vision of the future makes Jubilees not only a history book, but also a book of prophecy. Its author isn't just describing the past, he's predicting the future. And the basis of these predictions is the information contained in the heavenly tablets. But who can read what's written on these tablets? According to Jubilees, not ordinary people, only chosen prophets and special angels have access to these tablets. Abraham was one of those privileged few. In 12:26-27 we learn, the angel showed Abraham the heavenly tablets and told him what would happen in the future. But they instructed him not to share this information with anyone because it contained secrets for which humanity wasn't yet ready. This rule of secrecy is extremely important. The information on the heavenly tablets isn't available to everyone. It's given only to selected individuals, and even they don't receive all the information, only the parts relevant to their own time. What was shown to Abraham on these tablets? Jubilees provides details. The birth of Isaac, the sons of Jacob, the emergence of the 12 tribal leaders, the descent into Egypt, the period of slavery, the Exodus, the return to Canaan, all in chronological order. Chapter 13:17 reveals, when Abraham saw the future, he wept because he learned of his descendants' suffering, but then he was comforted because he saw that salvation would also come. The heavenly education Abraham received didn't die with him. According to Jubilees, this knowledge was passed down through generations, but not everyone had the same level of access. Isaac was the second link in this chain, and his task was much more specific than his father Abraham's. There's very little information about Isaac in Genesis. He's usually seen as a transitional figure between Abraham and Jacob. But Jubilees gives Isaac a completely different role, guardian and transmitter of heavenly laws to future generations. Jubilees 24:12 tells us, in his 25th year, Isaac learned from the angels what was written in the heavenly tablets, and he was given a special mission to preserve the laws and teach them to his sons. Isaac's angelic training differed from Abraham's. Abraham was learning the laws for the first time. Isaac was deepening his understanding. The tablets shown to him focused more on the future, how the 12 tribes would be formed, what land each would inhabit, what special abilities they would possess. Chapter 24:23 states, Isaac saw the future, the 12 sons who would be born to Jacob, the tribes each would lead, and their destiny in the land of Canaan. This knowledge was a tremendous burden for Isaac, because he knew the cosmic dimensions of the rivalry between Esau and Jacob. In Genesis, this rivalry appears as a personal family problem, but in Jubilees it's part of a cosmic battle. Here's a critical question. If Isaac knew what would happen in the future, why did he favor Esau? Doesn't this paradox make you wonder? According to Jubilees, even Isaac's favoritism toward Esau was written on the heavenly tablets. This wasn't Isaac's personal choice, but part of God's plan. It was also predetermined that Jacob would steal the blessing from his older brother. Chapter 25:1-2 explains, Isaac will love Esau, but God has chosen Jacob. This choice doesn't come from Isaac's will, but from the plan of the heavenly tablets. What was Isaac's role in all this? Was he acting against the future he knew, or was he an instrument to fulfill that future? Jubilees answers, both. Isaac personally favored Esau, but he also knew that Jacob was the chosen one. This inner conflict threw him into deep spiritual turmoil, but even this struggle was part of God's plan. Chapter 25:11 states, Isaac's heart was divided, one part loving his son, the other accepting God's will. This division was necessary for Jacob's salvation. This psychological turmoil reached its climax during the blessing Isaac gave to Jacob. In Genesis, this is described as trickery and deception, but Jubilees offers a radically different explanation. Isaac actually knew it was Jacob. The angels had revealed this to him, but he had to play his role to fulfill the heavenly plan. Chapter 27:13 reveals, when Isaac placed his hands on Jacob, the angels whispered to him, "This is your true heir. Give him the blessing, for this is what is written in the heavenly tablets." This statement completely transforms the blessing ceremony. It's no longer deception, but a cosmic ritual. Isaac is not only the human father, but also the earthly representative of heavenly will. Isaac's angel-guided life continued as he passed on the laws to Jacob. He didn't just give his son blessings, he taught him the secrets of the heavenly order. Chapter 27:17 tells us, Isaac taught Jacob all the laws, how to keep the Sabbath, how to offer sacrifices, how to observe purity laws. These things had been handed down to him from Abraham. This period of training was a turning point for Jacob. He was no longer just a son who had received a blessing, but the new guardian of heavenly laws. This responsibility shaped his 20 years of exile. Even during his years with Laban, Jacob continued to observe the law. According to Jubilees, he kept the Sabbath, offered sacrifices, and ate clean food, even in the pagan environment of Mesopotamia. Chapter 29, 5-6 states, Jacob didn't forget the law even in Laban's house. Every Sabbath he secretly offered sacrifices and prayed to God. Because heavenly laws don't depend on geography. This detail is crucial because it emphasizes the universality of these laws. Abraham practiced the same laws in Ur, Isaac in Canaan, Jacob in Mesopotamia. So these laws aren't tied to any particular country or nation. Jacob's exile was also a period of intense spiritual training. Angels visited him regularly, revealing step by step the knowledge contained in the heavenly tablets. Chapter 29:13 records, in his 14th year, Jacob received a great vision from the angels about the future, the birth of his 12 sons, the tribe each would lead, and the name Israel. This vision became the center of Jacob's life. He was no longer living only for his personal salvation, but for the salvation of future generations. This mission was what transformed him into Israel. Jacob's wrestling match with the angel takes on new meaning in this context. Genesis describes this event as a mysterious encounter, but Jubilees provides a detailed explanation. In Jubilees, Jacob's wrestling with the angel isn't just a physical struggle, but a ritual of spiritual transformation. That night, Jacob wasn't only given a new name, he was made the literal guardian of heavenly laws. Chapter 32:27-28 states, the angel said to him, "Your name will no longer be Jacob but Israel, for you will keep God's laws and pass them on to the next generation." This name change wasn't merely symbolic. With the name Israel, Jacob received new responsibilities. Chapter 33:10-11 states, all the laws given to Moses had already been taught to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. What happened at Mount Sinai wasn't the creation of new laws, but the official giving of forgotten laws to a nation. Has this perspective changed how you view these laws? Do you now see them as temporary regulations or as universal cosmic principles? This understanding contradicts Paul's teaching in his letter to the Galatians that the law was our schoolmaster. If Jubilees is correct, the law isn't a temporary teacher but a permanent guide for life. The birth of Jacob's sons was part of this cosmic system of law. According to Jubilees, the birth of each of the 12 sons happened according to specific rules. Which wife would bear them, in what order, and at what time, all were written on the heavenly tablets. Chapter 28:11-12 explains, 12 sons were born to Jacob through his wives and concubines, each at the time appointed by God. The formation of the 12 tribes was a cosmic plan. Each of these 12 tribal leaders was given special laws and responsibilities. Reuben as leader, Simeon and Levi as warriors, Judah as king, Issachar as wise man. Each tribe's place in the cosmic order was predetermined. Most important was the tribe of Levi. According to Jubilees, Levi was chosen for the priesthood on the heavenly tablets before he was even born. This selection wasn't random, but had very specific reasons. Chapter 30:18 states, Levi was given the priesthood because he was the one who best understood and practiced the heavenly laws. His descendants would preserve and teach God's laws. This detail is crucial because it shows that the Levitical priesthood didn't begin in Moses' time, but was planned in heaven much earlier. The fact that Moses and Aaron came from the tribe of Levi isn't coincidence, but a predetermined cosmic arrangement. Now we can ask, if all these roles are predetermined and written on heavenly tablets, is our role today also predetermined? Or do we shape it ourselves? The greatest revelation Jacob received at the end of his life was about Israel's future. He was shown in detail the descent into Egypt, the 400 years of slavery, the Exodus, and the return to the Promised Land. Chapter 35:12 records, when Jacob saw the future, he learned of his descendants' suffering in Egypt and of the salvation that would follow. He was told, this suffering is for purification, not destruction. This vision gives new meaning to Jacob's descent into Egypt. He went to Egypt, not only to escape famine, but also to fulfill the heavenly plan. It was in Egypt that Israel's formation as a nation would take place. Jacob's final words to his sons before his death are also critical in this context. He didn't just give personal advice, he reminded each son of their duties as written on the heavenly tablets. Chapter 36:7-8 states, Jacob said to each of his sons, I give you the laws that were handed down from my grandfather Abraham and my father Isaac. Keep them and pass them to the next generation. These laws are eternal. With the passing on of these laws, the patriarchal era ends, and Israel's process of becoming a nation begins. But this process isn't random. It follows the plan written on the heavenly tablets. The descent of Jacob's sons into Egypt, how Joseph saved them, how the 12 tribes were formed. There are hidden laws and cosmic plans behind all of this. In our next video, we'll reveal the heavenly secrets behind Israel's Egyptian adventure. We'll see Joseph's true mission, the cosmic roles of the 12 tribes, and how the Exodus was planned in advance. Because according to Jubilees, the Egyptian period isn't just a story of slavery and redemption, but the process by which Israel found its cosmic identity and embraced the heavenly laws as a nation. Every stage of this process, just like the patriarchs experienced, is part of the grand plan written on the heavenly tablets. To understand the meaning of these laws and plans today, we must first examine closely Israel's mysterious adventure in Egypt. The secrets hidden there might help us understand the cosmic role of our world today. The sons of Jacob were not merely the children of one father. According to the Book of Jubilees, each was born with a special mission written on heavenly tablets. The birth of the 12 tribal heads was no accident. It was part of a cosmic order. Understanding this order holds the key to discovering Israel's true identity. In Jubilees 34:19 we read, "When Jacob's 12 sons were born, the angel said to him, 'These are not only your children, but the foundations of the future nation of God.'" Each one has a special mission written on the heavenly tablets. But what were these special missions? And why did Reuben lose his birthright to leadership? Genesis tells us that Reuben sinned with his father's concubine Bilhah and therefore lost his right as the eldest son. But Jubilees gives this event much deeper meaning. Reuben's sin wasn't just a personal transgression, it was a violation of the heavenly order itself. Reuben's fall opened the way for Judah's rise. In Genesis 49:10, Jacob tells Judah that the scepter shall not depart from Judah. But Jubilees places the beginning of this prophecy much earlier, at the time of Judah's birth. According to Jubilees, Judah's royal mission was not only political but spiritual. He was destined not only to rule Israel but to uphold the heavenly laws. These responsibilities shaped the future role of the tribe of Judah. They provided not only political leadership but also protected Israel's spiritual identity. The kingdoms of David and Solomon continued this sacred tradition. Perhaps of all the 12 tribes, the tribe of Levi played the most unique role. Genesis mentions Levi and Simeon's act of revenge at Shechem, and Jacob rebukes them for it. Jubilees, however, sees this event in a completely different light. In 35-6, Levi's anger at Shechem was not sinful but zeal for holiness. He could not endure the violation of his sister because he felt deeply the laws of purity. This explanation doesn't justify Levi's violence, but places it in a different context. According to Jubilees, Levi's reaction was part of his preparation for his future priestly calling. Priests must distinguish between the holy and the profane. 30:18, the angels saw that Levi had great passion for holiness in his heart. That's why they gave him and his descendants the eternal priesthood. Levi's priesthood didn't begin in the time of Moses and Aaron. He was set apart for it from the moment of his birth. His mission wasn't just to serve in the temple, but to teach and guard the heavenly laws. 30:20, Mano not only offer sacrifices, but they will also teach the law and serve as spiritual leaders of the people. They will be the bridge between heaven and earth. This statement shows that the Levites had not only a ceremonial role, but an educational one. They were Israel's learned class, the guardians and transmitters of the law to future generations. Does this system sound familiar to you? Do you see similarities between the role of clergy today and that of the Levites? The other tribes received their own specific missions. Issachar was given wisdom and the calculation of time. According to Jubilees, this tribe produced experts who calculated the celestial calendar and determined the holy days. 34:8, the sons of Issachar will understand the times and tell Israel what they should do. They will know the heavenly cycles and calculate the holy days correctly. This task was critical because, according to Jubilees, following the wrong calendar led to spiritual confusion. The tribe of Issachar was to be Israel's guide in this matter. The tribe of Zebulun received the mission of navigation and trade. There was a cosmic plan behind the prophecy that Zebulun shall dwell by the seashore and be a harbor for ships. This made the tribe of Zebulun not only merchants but missionaries. They were to be Israel's gateway to the world. The missions of the other tribes were as follows: Dan as judges, Naphtali as messengers, Gad as warriors, Asher to bring blessing. Joseph's 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, received a special role, the multiplication and protection of future generations. In 34:15-16, Ephraim and Manasseh will multiply the number of Israel and protect them from their enemies. They will be Israel's shield and sword. This division of labor was not random. Each tribe's role was necessary for Israel to function as a complete whole. Like organs in a body, each had a different but complementary function. Jubilees doesn't see this tribal system as unique to Israel's time. According to the book, it will continue in the future in the Messiah's kingdom. The mission of each tribe, written on the heavenly tablets, will remain valid in the last days. In the last days, the 12 tribes will be regathered, and each will fulfill its mission written on the heavenly tablets. These missions are not temporary, but part of the eternal plan. This vision of the future offered a model not only for Israel, but for all humanity, because according to Jubilees, in the end times, all nations would learn this organized system and find their cosmic role. The story of Joseph in Genesis is usually told as a tale of jealousy, betrayal, and eventual forgiveness and redemption, but the Book of Jubilees gives Joseph a much greater role. He was not only the hero who saved his family, but a key executor of the cosmic plan written on the heavenly tablets. In Jubilees 34:12, when Joseph was born, the angels looked at him and saw that this child had come with a special mission to bring Israel to Egypt and make them a nation there. This explanation allows us to see Joseph's childhood dreams in new light. They not only foreshadowed his future high position, but hinted at his cosmic mission. Joseph's dreams were no accident. The angels were showing him the future, so he would understand the cosmic reason behind his brother's respect for him, says 34:12. What was this cosmic reason? According to Jubilees, even Joseph's sail to Egypt was written in the heavenly tablets. This was not his brother's malice alone, but the means God used to bring Israel to Egypt. The brothers' selling of Joseph will be considered a sin, but it will also be a necessary step in fulfilling the heavenly plan, for it was predestined that Israel would go down to Egypt, says 34:12-21. This double perspective, both sin and cosmic necessity, shows how Jubilees balances free will and destiny. The brothers are responsible for their choices, but the consequences serve God's plan. Joseph's years as a slave and prisoner in Egypt were not random. It was a period of preparation for his cosmic mission. According to Jubilees, Joseph not only learned Egyptian language and culture, but received special instruction from angels. During the years Joseph was in prison, angels visited him. They taught him the art of dream interpretation, but more than that, they showed him the plans written on the heavenly tablets. 39:6. Are you surprised to hear this detail? But wait. There's more. According to Jubilees, Joseph's ability to interpret dreams was not just natural talent. It was the ability to read the heavenly tablets. Dreams were reflections of the celestial record of people's futures. Every dream is a shadow of truth written on the heavenly tablets. Joseph had learned to read these shadows so he could decipher the true meaning of dreams, says 48. When interpreting Pharaoh's dream, Joseph wasn't just predicting agriculture. He was reading from the heavenly tablets what role Egypt would play in the next 7 years. This role wasn't just about Egypt, but part of a cosmic plan affecting the entire region. Joseph said to Pharaoh, "There will be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine." But this is not just an agricultural cycle, it's a cosmic arrangement for Israel to come to Egypt. 41:25. This statement takes Joseph's success in Egypt to a new dimension. He wasn't just doing economic planning, he was carrying out the heavenly plan. By preparing Egypt for 7 years of abundance, he ensured the whole region would depend on him during the famine. Joseph's grain-gathering program was not random. He knew when Israel was coming and made the necessary preparations for them. 42:1 says, this preparation wasn't only physical, but had spiritual dimensions. Joseph was also creating the political and social environment that would enable Egypt to accept Israel. It's in this context that Joseph's harshness when his brothers first visited takes on different meaning. He wasn't just seeking revenge or testing them, he was following the script written on the heavenly tablets. When Joseph recognized his brothers, he knew he had to treat them harshly. This was part of the process necessary for Israel to be fully established in Egypt. 43:14. What was this process? According to Jubilees, 3 conditions were necessary for Israel's final settlement in Egypt. First, Jacob himself must come to Egypt. Second, the whole family must decide to stay in Egypt. Third, Pharaoh must give them the best land. Joseph's game with his brothers was actually designed to fulfill all 3 conditions. Holding Benjamin hostage brought Jacob to Egypt. Testing his brothers' repentance brought unity to the family. Finally, revealing his identity led Pharaoh to give them the land of Goshen. Does this strategic planning seem to you like just human cleverness, or could it really be the work of heavenly guidance? Joseph's meeting with Jacob was also an event with cosmic dimensions. According to Jubilees, it wasn't just a father-son reunion but a critical turning point in the heavenly plan. When Joseph saw his father, the angels whispered to him, "Now your true mission begins. Israel is now in Egypt, and you are responsible for their protection." 46:29. What did this responsibility mean? Joseph had to provide not only for his family's physical needs but ensure their spiritual identity was protected. In the idolatrous environment of Egypt, it was critical for Israel to remain faithful to the heavenly laws. Joseph made sure Israel didn't forget the law while living in Egypt. He wanted them to be given separate lands so they wouldn't mix with Egyptian customs. 47:4. The Goshen region wasn't chosen randomly. It provided both sustenance and isolation for Israel. The fertile land allowed them to live prosperously while avoiding Egyptian culture. Goshen was the perfect place for Israel to form as a nation. There they would enjoy abundance and multiply, while maintaining their identity. 47:11 says, "The most important revelation Joseph received at the end of his life was about Israel's future. He knew the abundance in Egypt wouldn't last forever, that one day the era of slavery would begin. The angels said to Joseph, 'After your death, Israel will go through hard times, but this is a time of purification, and great salvation will come at the end,' says 52. This vision shaped Joseph's final words. He prophesied to his brothers not only about taking their bones to Canaan, but about the salvation to come. Joseph said to his brothers, 'I am dying, but God will visit you and bring you out of this land to the land he promised Abraham, Isaac and Jacob.' This word is written on heavenly tablets. 55. According to Jubilees, the spiritual legacy he left in Egypt shaped Israel's 400 years there. He laid foundations not only for physical redemption, but for preserving spiritual identity. This isn't the complete story of Joseph. In the coming days, we'll produce a special video that will delve deeper into the life and entire story of Prophet Yusuf in a way never told before. Stay tuned so you don't miss this fascinating journey. Now let's pick up where we left off. What happened to Israel after Joseph's death is summarized in a short sentence in Genesis. A new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. But the Book of Jubilees describes this transition period in much greater detail and offers a cosmic explanation for why this change occurred. When Joseph died, the heavenly shield protecting Israel was lifted. It was time for Israel to have a different experience in Egypt, says Jubilees 46:9. What was this different experience? According to Jubilees, Israel's 400 years of slavery was not an accident, but a purification process written on the heavenly tablets. Israel was not yet a true nation, just an extended family. To become a nation, they needed to experience common pain and common struggle. Israel's suffering in Egypt is not punishment but education. Just as gold is purified by fire, so Israel will be purified and strengthened by hardship, 1:13 says. How did this purification process work? According to Jubilees, there were three main phases of slavery. In the first phase, about 100 years, Israel lived comfortably, while still few in number, but in danger of being absorbed into Egyptian culture. In the second phase, about 200 years, as the population grew, the Egyptians became uncomfortable and oppression increased. In the third phase, the last 100 years, full slavery began, and they were forced into the hardest labor. Each phase taught Israel a different lesson. In the first phase, they learned about God's grace. In the second, about perseverance. In the third, about longing for salvation. 47:9 says, this educational approach didn't legitimize slavery, but gave it cosmic meaning. Israel's suffering wasn't in vain. It was preparing them for their future mission. What was this mission? According to Jubilees, Israel wasn't just chosen to inherit Canaan. They were to spread the heavenly laws throughout the world. To fulfill this mission, they themselves had to hold fast to these laws. The hardships in Egypt taught Israel this lesson. When they forgot God's laws, they suffered. When they remembered them, they were blessed. This lesson would shape their future teaching ministry. 1:15 says, this lesson was not only theoretical, but practical. Israel's greatest struggle in Egypt was preserving their identity. Idolatry, witchcraft, and immorality were rampant in their environment. Staying pure in this environment required great spiritual discipline. Are we not in a similar situation today? Are we trying to preserve our spiritual identity amid the negative influences around us? According to Jubilees, population growth wasn't the only area where Israel prospered in Egypt. They also increased their adherence to heavenly laws. Slavery made them more devoted to God, not less. The more Israel was oppressed, the more they multiplied. The more they multiplied, the more they clung to the law. The hardship was uniting them, says 47:11. How was this paradox possible? Israel's common suffering united them around a shared identity. They were no longer just the sons of Jacob, but the children of one nation. This unification process wasn't only emotional, but had organizational dimensions. The 12 tribes of Israel established their own internal organization in Egypt. Each tribe lived in its own area and maintained its own traditions, but also cooperated with the other tribes. The 12 tribes lived separately in Egypt, but they were united. Reuben was the leader, Judah provided protection, Levi taught the law. Each had a mission, 47:21. This organization was perfect preparation for the future wilderness journey and settlement in Canaan. When Israel came out of Egypt, they would emerge as an organized nation, not just a crowd. The most critical phase of the slavery period was the last 80 years. During this time, Pharaoh decided to kill Israel's male children. Genesis explains this as fear that Israel would multiply too much. But Jubilees gives a much deeper reason. When Pharaoh decided to kill the male children, he was actually under the influence of spiritual forces. Satanic forces wanted to prevent the promised savior of Israel from being born, says 47:9. This explanation sees infanticide as part of cosmic warfare. When dark forces realized they couldn't disrupt the salvation plan written on heavenly tablets, they at least tried to change the timing, but this attempt was also foreseen in the heavenly tablets. God had taken precautions in advance. Moses' birth and protection were part of the plan. 40 years before Moses was born, the angels identified his parents and protected them. The Savior had to be born safely, 47:5 says. The marriage of Amram and Jochebed was no accident but a heavenly arrangement. Both were from the tribe of Levi, and both knew the heavenly laws perfectly. It was already clear that the child born from this marriage would be special. Does this choice of parents sound familiar to you? Do you see similarity with Mary and Joseph being chosen as the parents of Jesus? At the time of Moses' birth, Israel's situation was critical. The massacre of boys was continuing, slavery had reached its peak, and hope was beginning to fade. But at this very moment, the cosmic plan came into play. It was part of the celestial plan that Moses was placed in the Nile and found by Pharaoh's daughter. Not only was he saved, but he received the best education in Egypt. This education prepared him for his future leadership. As Moses grew up in Pharaoh's palace, angels secretly taught him the laws of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He learned both Egyptian wisdom and heavenly laws, says 47:12. This double education made Moses a unique leader. He knew both Israel's spiritual background and Egypt's political system. This combination of knowledge would make him the perfect savior and lawgiver. It was no coincidence that Moses killed an Egyptian and fled to the desert. This was the beginning of his spiritual transformation. The 40 years in the desert would prepare him for the great mission at Mount Sinai. When Moses fled to the desert, his true training began. Their angels would show him the heavenly tablets and teach him the laws that would be given to Israel, 47:16 says. This preparation was necessary not only for Moses but for Israel. After 400 years of purification, they too were ready to fully receive the heavenly laws. The call Moses received from the burning bush on Mount Sinai wasn't just the beginning of a rescue operation. According to the Book of Jubilees, it was the opening of the final scene of the cosmic plan written on heavenly tablets 400 years before. Every detail of this plan was predetermined, its timing perfectly calculated. When Moses was called from the bush, the angel said to him, "The time has come. The 400 years written on the heavenly tablets have been fulfilled, and now it's time to save Israel," says Jubilees 48:1. But did this timing have special meaning? According to Jubilees, the Exodus wasn't just a historical event, but a critical turning point in the cosmic calendar. The date of Israel's exodus from Egypt was April 14th. This wasn't chosen by chance. This date had been marked on the heavenly tablets since creation. On the 14th day of the first month, at the appointed time, it was written in the heavenly tablets that God would bring Israel out of Egypt. That day was a holy time set apart from the beginning of creation, 49:41. This statement gives Passover cosmic meaning. It's no longer just historical commemoration, but a symbol of universal order's renewal. The struggle between Moses and Aaron against Pharaoh is also understood differently in this context. According to Jubilees, the 10 plagues were not only punishments inflicted on Egypt, but reflections on earth of war between cosmic forces. Each plague was sent to defeat Egypt's false gods. The real battle wasn't between God and Pharaoh, but between heavenly powers and spirits of darkness, says 48:11. This dimension of spiritual warfare shows the plagues in new light. Turning water to blood was challenging the Nile god. The invasion of frogs mocked the goddess of fertility. Darkening the sun demonstrated the sun god's weakness. But does this explanation change how you now perceive these plagues? Do you now see them only as supernatural events or as part of a spiritual battle? According to Jubilees, angels were the real power behind the 10 plagues. Each plague was carried out by a different category of angel. Angels of judgment punished injustice, angels of nature disrupted creation, and angels of protection shielded Israel from the chaos. While angels of judgment were striking Egypt, angels of protection were guarding Goshen. It was written in the heavenly tablets that no harm should come to Israel, 48:18 says. This double operation, punishing and protecting simultaneously, demonstrated the cosmic dimension of God's justice and mercy. He wasn't only punishing sin, but protecting the innocent. The most critical plague was the last, the death of the firstborn. In Genesis, this event is described as the final blow that broke Pharaoh and forced him to free Israel. But Jubilees gives it much deeper meaning. The death of the firstborn wasn't just punishment for Egypt, it was taking away Egypt's right over future generations. Because they had enslaved Israel, they lost their own future, says 49:2. This explanation makes the plague not just a momentary event, but an expression of cosmic justice. Because Egypt had tried to steal Israel's future, it lost its own future. The sacrificial lamb and blood on the doorposts also take on different meaning in this context. It wasn't only a sign of protection but a symbol of the cosmic covenant. When the lamb's blood was smeared on the doorposts, it was the seal of Israel's eternal covenant with God. It would protect them not only from death that night, but from all future curses, 49:2-6 says. This promise of eternal protection transformed the Exodus from one-time deliverance into permanent salvation. Israel was now a special nation under God's protection. As you think about the meaning of the lamb's blood for Christians today, what parallels does this promise of cosmic protection bring to mind right now? The night of the Exodus was itself an example of perfect planning by the heavenly order. According to Jubilees, Israel's exit from Egypt was planned with precise calculations. The route they would take, how long it would take, where they would stop, everything was predetermined. Every day of Israel's desert journey was written on the heavenly tablets. What they would need on which day, what challenges they would face, what miracles they would see, it was all part of the plan, says 54. This detailed planning transformed the desert journey from mere migration into a process of spiritual training. Every stop, every event, every challenge was preparing Israel for the great meeting at Mount Sinai. The parting of the Red Sea was a critical part of this training process. It wasn't only physical deliverance but strengthening of Israel's faith in God's power. When the sea parted, Israel realized God's power is limitless and nothing is impossible for him. This lesson prepared them for all challenges ahead, says 50:12. Moses' victory song by the seaside wasn't random. It was written on heavenly tablets and would become the prototype for future songs sung in the temple. This heavenly earthly parallel showed that Israel was no longer just an earthly nation, but the earthly representative of the heavenly order. The final stage of the Exodus was approaching Mount Sinai. This mountain wasn't chosen randomly. According to Jubilees, Sinai had been set aside since creation as the holy place where God's laws would be given. Mount Sinai was holy from creation and marked on heavenly tablets as the place where the law would be given to Israel. This mountain was the bridge between heaven and earth. 50:12. Moses going up the mountain and staying 40 days was also part of the cosmic order. During this time, he not only received the stone tablets but learned to read the heavenly tablets. During the 40 days Moses stayed on the mountain, he learned from angels the laws of the heavenly tablets. The stone tablets given to him were only a brief summary. The real knowledge was written on his mind and heart, says 50:16. The laws given at Sinai were indeed not new. According to Jubilees, they were the same laws taught to Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, but now officially given to an entire nation. With this, Israel's real mission began, to preserve and spread the heavenly laws throughout the world. The Exodus wasn't only liberation from Egypt, but the beginning of this cosmic mission. But fulfilling this mission didn't depend on Israel's success at that time. According to the Book of Jubilees, a much greater plan was written on the heavenly tablets, a plan that encompassed not only Israel's future, but the future of all humanity. The final act of this plan was a cosmic transformation that would take place at the end of time. From the moment the law was given on Mount Sinai, history had entered a new phase. Heavenly laws were now known on earth, and Israel was obligated to uphold them. But what if Israel fails? What if these laws are forgotten and lost? After the laws were given on Mount Sinai, Israel's story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. The Book of Jubilees tells us that along with the laws Moses received came the revelation of a much greater plan, one written on heavenly tablets. This plan didn't just concern Israel's future, but the destiny of all humanity and the final state of our universe. When Moses descended from the mountain, Jubilees tells us, the angels revealed what would happen in the future, the disasters that would strike Israel, the years of exile, but also the great restoration. Everything was written on the heavenly tablets. How detailed was this vision of the future? According to Jubilees, these heavenly plates recorded not just general trends, but specific events. Which king would rise when, which war would be won by whom, which prophet would appear. Everything was planned in advance. The text states, every period in Israel's history is written on the heavenly tablets, the time of the judges, the kingdom, the division, the exile, and the return. Nothing happens by chance. But the most crucial part concerned prophecies about the end times. According to Jubilees, history isn't a straight line, it's a cyclical system. Just like the 49-year Jubilee cycles, all of human history runs in great cycles, and the end of this cosmic cycle was approaching. Wait a moment. What if I told you that the period we're living in right now is the final phase of this cosmic cycle? According to the Jubilees' understanding of time, 49 great Jubilee periods, that's 2,401 years, would pass since Israel received the law at Sinai. At the end of this time, the world would be radically transformed, evil would end, and God's kingdom would be established. The text promises, at the end of the 49 Jubilee periods, the great renewal will come, the earth will return to the purity of creation's first days, and heavenly laws will reign over all the earth. How would this massive period unfold? Jubilees provides detailed historical stages. The first 980 years, 20 Jubilees, would be Israel's golden age, the time of Judges, David and Solomon. The next 490 years, 10 Jubilees would bring decay, the kingdom's division and increasing idol worship. Then 490 years of punishment, exile, scattering and suffering. The final 441 years, 9 Jubilees, would be restoration, return, renewal and preparation for the Messiah. Each period teaches its own lessons, the text explains. The Golden Age teaches God's blessings, the age of corruption shows the dangers of free will, the punishment period reveals sin's consequences, and the Restoration Age demonstrates repentance's power. The most dramatic event in this cyclical system was Israel's scattering and gathering. While Genesis describes these as historical events, Jubilees gives them cosmic significance. Do you know how closely Israel's modern scattering and gathering aligns with these prophecies? Do you think this parallel is mere coincidence? According to Jubilees, Israel's dispersion wasn't punishment, it was education. They were meant to go into the world and introduce heavenly laws to all nations. In every country they would teach God's unity, the Sabbath's holiness, and justice's necessity. The text declares, when Israel scattered among the nations, it wasn't to destroy them, but to fulfill their universal mission. They became seeds of God's law wherever they were scattered. This missionary approach wasn't unique to Judaism. According to Jubilees, Christians would eventually play the same role. The heavenly laws were given to all mankind, not just one nation. But the dispersion wouldn't last forever. The heavenly plates also recorded Israel's regathering time. This gathering wouldn't just be geographical, it would be spiritual too. In the last days, Israel's children will be gathered from the four winds, but they won't just be physically gathered, they'll be spiritually united. They'll remember the heavenly laws and become one heart. This gathering process would be supported by cosmic signs. According to Jubilees, the sun and moon would move in different cycles, seasons would change, and natural disasters would increase. These wouldn't signal the apocalypse, but the birth pangs of a new age. When gathering time approaches, the heavens will give signs. The sun and moon will change their patterns, and stars will deviate from their courses. The old order is passing away, and a new order is being born. We can connect these cosmic signs to current climate changes, natural disasters, and astronomical events. The most exciting part of Jubilees' prophecies was the plan to end evil. According to the book, dark forces have manipulated humanity throughout history. Their leader was Mastema, Satan's counterpart. But their defeat was also written on the heavenly tablets. Mastema and the evil spirit's reign isn't eternal. The day is written on heavenly tablets when they'll be bound and cast into the abyss. When that day comes, justice will rule the earth. This spiritual victory wasn't just symbolic, it would have practical consequences. Wars would cease, diseases would disappear, and natural disasters would stop. The dark forces behind them all would be neutralized. A very special person would play a role in bringing about this great transformation, the Messiah. But Jubilees' understanding of the Messiah was different from mainstream Christianity and Judaism. The Book of Jubilees portrayed the Messiah in far more complex terms than mainstream Christianity and Judaism expected. It wasn't just a single savior figure, but multiple anointed leaders who would play roles in different stages of cosmic restoration. In the last days, God will send 3 anointed ones, one a priest, one a king, one a prophet. Each will establish a different dimension of heavenly laws on earth. Why was this triple Messiah understanding important? Because according to Jubilees, heavenly laws formed a system with spiritual, political, and social dimensions. Establishing this system required spiritual leadership, the priestly Messiah, political power, the kingly Messiah, and revelatory knowledge, the prophetic Messiah. The priestly Messiah would come from Levi's line and teach heavenly laws. He wouldn't just organize temple rituals, but teach all humanity the correct way to worship. Under his leadership, idol worship would be completely eliminated, and worship of the one true God would become universal. The kingly Messiah would come from Judah's line and apply heavenly laws to political systems. He would rule not just Israel, but all nations with justice. There would be no wars in his kingdom, because all disputes would be settled according to heavenly laws. The prophetic Messiah would bring final revelations about the future. He would read the last pages of heavenly tablets and announce to humanity the completion of the cosmic plan. Does this triple Messiah system remind you of Christianity's Trinity doctrine, or do you think it's a completely different concept? But before these 3 Messiahs could begin their work, a great cleansing of the world would occur. Jubilees calls this the Great Judgment. This meant not just individual judgment, but an overhaul of the entire system. In the days of great judgment, God will review every institution, tradition, and teaching. Those not in harmony with heavenly laws will be abolished, and those in harmony will be strengthened. This process would be painful but inevitable. False beliefs, unjust systems, and corrupt traditions had accumulated over thousands of years. The new order couldn't be established until all these were cleansed. The new order cannot be born until the old order dies. That's why many people won't be able to withstand the changes during the great upheaval period. But this temporary suffering is necessary for the lasting peace that follows. After this cleansing process, true restoration would begin. The renewal Jubilees portrayed was cosmic transformation, not only spiritual but physical too. First, there would be restoration of the time system. The whole world would switch to the 364-day solar calendar that Jubilees envisioned. No more calendar confusion. All nations would keep Sabbath on the same days and celebrate feasts on the same dates. No longer would the powerful's rights prevail, but God's justice. Third, there would be restoration of the economic system. The 49-year Jubilee system Jubilees envisioned would be implemented worldwide. Every 49 years, debts would be forgiven, land returned to original owners, and slaves freed. How similar are these economic reform proposals to today's social justice debates? Or do you find them too radical? Fourth, there would be restoration of the education system. Heavenly laws would be taught to all mankind, no more ignorance. Every child would learn from early age to distinguish between right and wrong, clean and unclean. Fifth, there would be restoration of the health system. Living according to heavenly laws would eliminate disease. Through clean diet, regular rest, and spiritual peace, people would live long lives, even returning to patriarchal lifespans. When restoration in these 5 areas was complete, the world would experience a new creation. But it wouldn't just be institutional change, it would be a radical transformation of human hearts. In the last days, God will put a new spirit in human hearts. This spirit will lead them to love, obey, and keep heavenly laws. Laws will no longer be enforced by force, but from the heart. How would this heart change occur? According to Jubilees, it would be both individual and collective. Individually, each person would experience repentance and renewal. Collectively, entire social structures would transform. The result would be true peace for the first time in human history. Not just absence of war, but complete harmony and cooperation. In those days, the lion will lie down with the lamb, for all creation will have peace with God. There will be no more hatred between people. All nations will be brothers and sisters. Does this utopian vision seem realistic to you, or is it fantasy? Would you like to see it realized, even partially? But this great transformation wouldn't happen instantly. According to Jubilees, it would begin with the Messiah's work and gradually spread worldwide. First, Israel would adopt the system, then surrounding nations, and finally the whole world. This gradual approach shows how much Jubilees valued realism. The book doesn't just dream utopian dreams, it also draws a practical roadmap for how these dreams could be realized. But how relevant are these ancient prophecies today? Where are we in the 2,401-year cosmic cycle predicted by Jubilees, and can we see signs of this plan around us? According to Ethiopian Orthodox Church calculations, we're now at the end of the 47th Jubilee period in the Jubilees calendar. If this calculation is correct, then only 2 Jubilee periods remain, about 98 years, in the cosmic plan. And this final period is predicted to be the time of the most dramatic changes. During the last 2 Jubilee periods, heaven and earth will experience great upheavals. As the old order's end approaches, resistance will be at its peak. But this dark period is also when new light begins to dawn. When we compare this statement with today's world, we see striking parallels. The 20th century's technological revolution, globalization, communication network proliferation, and democratized information access all remind us of Jubilees' prophecy that knowledge will cover the whole earth. At the same time, increasing natural disasters, climate change, and frequent astronomical events can also be categorized as heavenly signs. According to Jubilees, these aren't apocalypse harbingers, but birth pangs of a new order. Do these parallels seem coincidental to you, or could they really be part of a pre-planned process? But perhaps the most striking sign was Israel's restoration as a state in 1948. According to Jubilees' prophecies, Israel's return to its land marked the beginning of the cosmic plan's final phase. After this return, heavenly laws spread throughout the world would accelerate. When Israel returns to its land, God's laws will begin returning to earth. First they will remember them, then other nations will learn them. From Jubilees' perspective, many developments in the last 75 years seem to confirm this prophecy. The worldwide spread of Sabbath concepts, organic farming trends, natural nutrition movements, social justice activism, and environmental awareness all can be interpreted as returns to heavenly laws. Modern pursuit of meditation and spirituality also aligns with Jubilees' prophecy of a new spirit in human hearts. People realize material success is inadequacy and seek spiritual fulfillment. Technology's global communication network also supports the vision that all nations will be brothers and sisters. For the first time in history, people on different continents can communicate instantly, learn about each other's cultures, and discover shared values. Do you think social media and the internet are instruments of this cosmic plan? Or is this a very different interpretation? But the most important development from Jubilees' viewpoint was that people of different religions and cultures began sharing common moral values. Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, they all embrace similar values: compassion, justice, honesty, and charity. In the last days, God's laws will resonate in all religions. Even though people speak different languages, they'll defend the same values. Heavenly laws are universal. This points toward the worship of one God vision Jubilees envisioned. This doesn't mean religious merger, but convergence on shared values. Of course, alongside these positive developments, there are also dangers Jubilees warns about. According to the book, as the cosmic plan nears completion, dark forces will play their final card. Increasing violence, moral decay, and spiritual emptiness are signs of this. Mastima will strike with his last strength because he knows his time is short. He'll do everything possible to turn people against each other and make them forget heavenly laws. This warning explains today's polarization, hate speech, and moral relativism. But according to Jubilees, these are temporary. The more intense the darkness, the brighter the light will shine. So what's our individual role in this great transformation? According to Jubilees, every human being can contribute to this cosmic plan. How? By starting to apply heavenly laws in their own life. When each person begins living heavenly laws in their own life, they contribute to cosmic transformation. The plan isn't made up of great events, but individual choices. This individual responsibility manifests in these areas: respecting time order through Sabbath keeping, maintaining justice by protecting the weak, following cleanliness principles through healthy living, embracing cooperation through social justice, and pursuing spiritual development through prayer and meditation. Anyone making regular efforts in these 5 areas becomes a follower of the heavenly plan from Jubilees' perspective. Religion, race, and nationality don't matter. What's important is living according to universal values. How does this sense of responsibility make you feel? Is it a heavy burden or an exciting mission? In conclusion, the Book of Jubilees isn't just a historical text, it's also a guide for today. Its prophecies explain past events, make sense of current situations, and give hope for the future. This book tells us, history isn't made of coincidences. There's a cosmic plan, and it will result in good's triumph. Our role isn't to resist this plan, but to adapt and contribute to it. From this perspective, it's clear that the period we're living in isn't just chaotic transition. We're on the verge of great transformation. And this transformation is expected to complete in about 2 Jubilee years, 98 years. What should we do during this process? According to Jubilees, the answer is simple: return to heavenly laws, live justly, show compassion, and unite. Because the future belongs not to perfect individuals alone, but to societies that embrace right values. And these values aren't foreign at all. They're universal principles that every religion, philosophy, and wise person stands for. Jubilees simply systematize them and link them to a cosmic plan. So the Book of Jubilees' message for today's world is this: don't lose hope. There's a plan, however complex it may seem, and it will result in good's triumph. Your task is to align with this plan and invite those around you to do the same. The question remains, how does this great plan play out in modern lives? What practical lessons can we learn from this ancient text, and how can we apply them in today's world? These are the questions we must continue exploring as we witness this cosmic transformation unfold before our very eyes. What has our journey through the Book of Jubilees revealed to us? The most profound truth we've uncovered while studying this ancient text is that history isn't mere coincidence, it's part of a divine cosmic plan. This plan, though preserved in Ethiopia's mountains for centuries, carries deeply meaningful messages for our modern world. First, we discovered that time isn't simply a flowing river. It's a sacred system governed by divine cycles. The 364-day solar calendar in Jubilees shows us how to escape the chaotic pace of our modern lives and find a more balanced rhythm. The Sabbath becomes more than just a day of rest. It's our way of harmonizing with the universal order. Second, we learned that God's laws aren't temporary rules, but eternal principles woven into creation itself. The tradition of heavenly law passed from Abraham to Moses and from Moses to our present day shows us that we too must align ourselves with these universal truths. Third, we realize that our individual lives, though small, play critical roles in this cosmic plan. Just as every decision Joseph made in Egypt served Israel's future salvation, our daily choices contribute to the advancement of God's grand design. Perhaps most importantly, this journey has filled us with hope. No matter how dark things may appear, the victory of good is already written. Inscribed on the heavenly tablets, this victory is inevitable. Given these truths, what should we do as 21st century believers? How can we apply the Book of Jubilees' message to our everyday lives? The answer is beautifully simple: return to heavenly law. This isn't about legalism, it's about living in harmony with God's cosmic order. It means respecting our time, living justly, maintaining purity, helping others, and never neglecting our spiritual growth. Remember, this transformation won't be merely individual, it will be social too. We can pioneer this change. By living heavenly values in our families, workplaces, and neighborhoods, we create small centers of that great restoration to come. Now, in light of everything we've learned throughout this video, let us pray together, inspired by the tradition of Jubilees. Dear Father, Creator of heaven and earth, Lord of time, author of the heavenly tablets, you created the angels on creation's first day and gave them guardianship of the cosmic order. You called Abraham, blessed Isaac, and made Jacob into Israel. You gave Moses the law and taught your people your eternal covenant. We come before you grateful to have learned these ancient truths, yet feeling the weight of our responsibility. We now know your plan, written on the heavenly tablets. We understand the sacred cycles of time, the universal nature of your laws, and our role in the last days. Lord, help us not just keep this knowledge in our minds, Let us feel it in our hearts, apply it in our lives, and share it with those around us. Let us represent your heavenly laws on earth, as the Book of Jubilees teaches. You who established the sacred 364-day calendar, guide us to organize our time according to your order. Don't let us get caught in the chaotic pace of the modern world. Let us remember the Sabbath's sanctity and discover the spiritual dimension of rest. Help us live in harmony with you, following the rhythm of your seasons. You taught Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob the heavenly laws. Empower us to live them daily. Develop our sense of justice so we protect the weak and stand for the oppressed. Let us embrace principles of purity, remaining pure in body and soul. Keep charity alive in our hearts so that no one around us goes without. Remind us that every difficulty, every test in our lives is part of your great plan, just as you sent Joseph to Egypt and through him brought a great salvation plan to life. Help us be patient. Teach us to look toward the future with hope. Grant us faith that your timing is perfect, as you brought Israel out of Egypt and equipped them with your heavenly laws. Help us break free from the slavery systems of our modern world. Don't let us be enslaved by materialism, consumer culture, or meaningless pursuits. Let us find true freedom in your laws. Our Lord, as Jubilees teaches, we know that in the last days a great restoration will come. Let us play our part in this restoration. Let us help establish Christ's kingdom. Let us contribute to the reign of his heavenly laws throughout the world. You who promised to put a new spirit in human hearts, transform our hearts first. Remove our old nature and clothe us with your new spirit. Let us follow heavenly laws with love, not mere obligation. Let them be a source of blessing, not burden. You who celebrate the Sabbath with the angels, grant that our worship may unite with heavenly praise. May our prayers harmonize with angelic prayers and our hymns with their songs. Lord, we thank you for sharing with us this treasure that the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has preserved for centuries. You've shown that this book's wisdom belongs not to just one nation, but to all humanity. You've taught us that people from different traditions and cultures can meet in common values. May we also experience this spirit of unity. Let us rise above sectarian differences, ethnic divisions, and nationalistic prejudices. Remembering that heavenly laws are universal, let us live in brotherhood with all people, whether they fear God or not. You've promised that in the last days all nations will return to you. For this transformation to begin, start with our lives. Let those around us see the beauty of your laws in how we live. Let us witness not just with words, but with our actions. Finally, Lord, give us perseverance for the challenges ahead. As Jubilees warned, in the last days the forces of darkness will increase their resistance. But as long as you're with us, we fear no power. Your plan will surely unfold. Your kingdom will surely be established. Until that day, let us continue as your faithful servants, upholding your heavenly laws and spreading your love. May we carry the cosmic hope that the Book of Jubilees teaches us. We offer this prayer in Jesus Christ's name, knowing he is our mediator, guided by the Holy Spirit. You who authored the great plan written on the heavenly tablets, to you be praise and thanksgiving forever and ever. Amen. Throughout this video, we've explored together the amazing world of the Book of Jubilees. If you're interested in these ancient truths, if you found our video helpful, please support us by hitting the like button. This truly motivates us to continue. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so we can discover other hidden biblical treasures together. Ring the notification bell so you'll know when we release new videos.